Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Josh and Artemis Show. Tonight, we have a special guest, Taylor Silverman, on. She's a pro skateboarder, and she's also a women's advocate for women's sports. So keeping them female, which, like we've said so many times, should be common sense, but it's not in today's society. So we're going to get all into that. And we're really looking forward to it.
Looking forward to speaking to her. We've had a brief chat backstage, as we do with all our guests. And she's a lovely person. So we can't wait to speak to Taylor in more depth about her story and what's happened since, and just her thoughts on all this conversation in general about female sports and women's rights. So looking forward to this one. Before we get into all this, guys, as usual, if you're brand new to our channel and you like the stuff we talk about, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell.
For sure. And make sure to follow us on X. We're very active on there. And if you do want to support the show, you could become a YouTube or Patreon member. Links in the description and, of course, the bio of our homepage. We've also listed Taylor's links in the description of the video, so make sure you do follow her as well and keep up with what she's doing.
Absolutely. So we'll bring Taylor into the show now.
Yes, right now.
Here she is.
There we go.
Hey guys, thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks.
I was telling you before the show, but I recently came across your X page and I saw you guys were having awesome guests on and just covering really crazy news. So I was really excited when you reached out.
Yeah, I don't think we have any limits to where we'll go at this point.
We're not really afraid of anything in terms of talking about things, because we believe, there's this culture now where you can't talk about things or say the truth, really, but we fully believe that you should just be able to tell the truth about something, and you shouldn't be afraid to just say how you feel and tell the truth. And if you get backlash or bullshit from someone, then there's nothing.
This is what it is.
Yeah, you shouldn't let it affect your day, but of course it's difficult at times with someone in your position where you've got a lot of abuse, which we still can't believe.
I know, especially as we were watching like previous interviews, we're like, you just seem like the nicest person. It's like, why do you get any hate? I don't know. We can't understand why, really.
There's this quote. I don't know where it came from. It's not a quote from me, but it's like stuck in my head through this whole thing. And it's that truth sounds like hate to those who hate the truth.
Actually,
I think that a lot of the bullying and the online attacks, they are the resort of the people who disagree with me because they don't have a good argument to go by. They have to fall back on bullying and harassing people, which to a lot of people, and even to myself before I spoke up, I understand why that's scary, but it's really just words, and 100% of it for me is online. In real life, I've got nothing but support. And I know that we are the majority here who still have common sense.
Yeah.
And I wish people wouldn't be scared to speak up too.
Of course. Yeah. And we try and highlight that on the show as best we can. And, we're really not afraid of telling the truth about this because, at the end of the day, we live in a world where there's fundamental truths and fundamental facts, and no one should be afraid of really highlighting this stuff. We've all learned this in school from a very early age, that a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and there's specific defined differences between them, which is why female spaces exist, which is why men and women have a different, but they're in different sports, if that makes sense. And these things shouldn't be questioned for me, but we're living in this crazy world now where it's all kind of merging into one thing. And it's a lot of issues, of course. In terms of yourself, because we're obviously familiar with your story and what happened a couple of years ago, but just for the audience who might not be that familiar, would it be okay to just give a brief overview of actually what happened to you a couple of years ago?
Yeah, definitely. So I've spent the last 12 years of my life skateboarding, and that's been like the main focus of my life. I wasn't really paying attention to politics or anything like that. So this is something that like actually impacted me and woke me up to all these issues that are going on. But I competed for several years, and I was traveling to different states to go to contests that women were competing in. So they actually had like women's divisions. Because when I first started, I was doing local stuff. back in Michigan, and oftentimes it was just one open men's division. So I was really excited to start traveling and go meet and get to actually compete with other girls who are really passionate about the same thing that I love to do. But pretty quickly, I started to realize that this like transgender stuff was creeping into skateboarding. It was a lot of people don't know this, but this actually happened to me 3 times. It was just the last contest that it ended up being a huge news story.
Yeah.
But back in 2018, I traveled to California. And at this point, I was just excited to like go compete in this contest. I didn't expect to do well. I didn't even make it through the qualifier. But I thought it was pretty strange that there was a guy in the contest who like identified as a woman. And at that point, I kind of brushed it off and figured that the contest organizers probably didn't know how to handle it, didn't know that it was going to happen. And I thought, this isn't going to happen again. This is silly. But it only got worse. And actually, some of these contest organizers started really encouraging and celebrating it. So for the second time, it was in 2020, I went to Chicago. And this time I actually got displaced from first place by the male skater.
Wow.
So I remember like driving back home from this contest with a friend who I had gone with from Michigan. And I made a joke in the car. I said something about how like if it would have been actually a women's contest, I would have placed first. And she looked at me dead serious and says, but that person is a woman. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Like you're trolling me, you're joking. But I started to see how like there were women in skateboarding who actually were buying into this and thinking that they had to support this, even though it was going to destroy our divisions and everything that had like just recently grown for us.
Yeah.
But I still hadn't been like financially impacted by it. I didn't expect it to ever get to that point. But in 2021, I competed in a Red Bull circuit. And at this point, this is a contest circuit that there's thousands of dollars involved. So I had to go through a qualifier in Michigan, travel to Detroit. I placed first in that qualifier and I got invited to the finals event in Lincoln, Nebraska. So like a month later, I traveled out to Nebraska and I was asked to compete in one more qualifier the day before, even though I was already in the finals. They told me like a lot of the girls had done multiple qualifiers and they'd be happy if I did that one. So I competed in that one and I placed first again. So at this point, I'm like, man, I actually might have a shot at doing really well in this finals, which I didn't expect. I went there just no expectations, going to do my best.
Yeah.
But I did not know at this point that there had been a man who was traveling stop to stop, also collecting $500 at every stop of these qualifiers.
Wow.
And we hadn't crossed paths yet. So the day of the finals, I found out that he'd be competing in the women's division like an hour or two before the finals. And I didn't know what to do. I was really scared to say anything. I didn't know what could happen if I did. I didn't know if I'd be sacrificing even being able to participate at all. I knew that I had a good shot at placing and making money regardless, but I like called my dad, really freaked out, asking for advice. And he was like, this is obviously wrong, but you're probably going to place first or second based on your qualifying position. So you might as well take home a couple $1,000s regardless and try to deal with it later or talk to Red Bull. So I go through the finals. Everything about this day felt wrong. And I was just going through the motions of like how I would normally behave at a contest. But it ended up that he took first place and he also took best trick. So he got like $3,000 for women's first place, $1,000 for best trick. And then he'd also collected $1,000 in qualifiers. So this is $5,000 of women's prize money in this whole circuit. And my paycheck got cut like, I think like a couple $1,000s. I don't remember the exact number. But I went home and I started like telling people what had happened, because a lot of people asked me back home, like, what happened at that Red Bull contest? How did it go? And I was honest with them. I told them that I placed second, but the person who got first was a man. and everyone responded that like with shock, and people were actually really upset about it. They were like apologizing to me that this had happened, and I started to realize that like I wasn't crazy, that what had happened was really wrong, and I wanted to do something about it, but I didn't know how. So I ended up reaching out to Red Bull privately. And this was through an email of which like we corresponded already with organizing me getting out to this contest. And I basically told them that this is exactly how myself and all the other women in this contest were impacted. I don't think you guys handled this correctly. And I would really like to schedule a time to speak with you about potential options of what to do moving forward that would be better for everybody. And they completely ignored me. They didn't even respond to my email. So I actually like sat around waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks thinking they might get back to me. And finally, I reached a breaking point that I had had enough. I felt really guilty for not speaking up because I knew this was happening in other sports. I knew this was actually pretty common in skateboarding. So I posted what happened on my Instagram, which at the time I had like a few thousand followers who just followed me for skateboarding videos. And this post went viral within the day.
Wow.
And it was like a huge relief to just finally tell the truth about what happened. But it was also like this weight off my shoulders that I was not crazy, and all this stuff I had seen online of people acting like this was such a terrible thing to talk about was lies. And a lot of people really cared about this and had been personally impacted by it or had their kids impacted by it. And they were waiting for girls to speak up. So ever since then, I've kept talking about it. And a lot of people don't like that because they don't want people to know what's happening. But even more people do appreciate it. And I think a lot more girls have joined in because there have been voices who have like come out and just said something already. Like I saw Riley Gaines speak up before I did, and Selena Soul, she's a Connecticut track runner. And now there's like countless athletes speaking up. They're in all different sports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was gonna say how it is like really incredible to see like more and more people speaking up. And I think it is like the power of like, you know, using your voice and like spreading awareness. We always say like conversations lead to change. Like if you don't say anything, or, you know, even just talking amongst like family and friends, obviously we kind of talk to the camera and like to whoever's listening, but like, it's like the more you talk about it, the more you can actually create like positive change. And so,
yeah. And that's what it started with me, was just talking to family and friends and other skaters. And I think if I hadn't said anything to just people in my community, I don't think I would have actually spoken up publicly. But like seeing everybody agree with me was pretty reassuring that I was right. And you feel crazy because you see all this stuff online and in the news that's telling you that you're wrong and that it's some terrible, hateful thing to not agree with this. But in real life, everybody sees like the total sham that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's mainstream media for you.
That's the contradiction, you know, because, you know, it's literally just an online thing for me, because like you just said, when you actually speak to people, you know, in daily life, if you speak to your friends and family or someone on the street, more than likely they're going to agree with everything you just said.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just an online world thing, really. It's like a subculture in some ways, which has been propped up to being a majority group, and it's very strange to me how this, you know, it's a very small portion of people, and it's being propped up in our societies now as some, you know, untouchable group, which they even have their own flag. I mean, you could call it a country now, for God's sake, you know, and their flag is being flown in between the American flag. I mean, I saw a picture the other day of I can't remember when it was, but it was some sort of an event, and it had two American flags and the LGBTQ+2I flag in between them, and it's
I
just
think that was at the White House as well.
yeah, it was
So
at
it's
the White House. And
wow, it's reached high ground.
yeah, and it's just crazy how, you know, that flag is just everywhere.
Yeah, nothing says we're oppressed like having your flag flown everywhere and being the most protected group that nobody can say anything about.
Yeah, and for sure, like the trans community like hijacked that flag because, you know, it was basically for LGB, which most people, not everybody, but most people who identify in the LGB community don't support trans people because it's actually very like anti-gay, anti-lesbian, like to tell kids that like they're born in the wrong body. Meanwhile, those kids could just grow up to be gay or lesbian, like and that's why they're playing with toys, or maybe not.
And the whole idea of like male lesbians, like that's another thing. This guy at the Red Bull contest, he was telling us all he's a lesbian.
Oh my god, it's so stupid. So it's like basically you're hetero.
Yeah,
okay,
and
like just deal with that.
Yeah, and,
you're straight with some extra steps, and to tell women who are lesbians that they must accept you and your penis is pretty homophobic.
Yeah,
like.
And
I think it even goes further than like gays and lesbians not fully supporting the extremism that's come from the trans community. I got so many messages from people who identify as trans supporting me and saying that we don't agree with this stuff. We want to live in a way that we feel comfortable, but we don't want to force anything on anyone. We don't want to invade women's sports or spaces. And we feel like a very small group of people are dragging our name through the mud. And I feel like that's got to be a frustrating position to be in for that group, because it hasn't done them any good to have this blasted all over mainstream media. It's made people far less tolerant and not want to support any of it.
It's true. And I mean, we've said it too, like you can't just say all trans want the same thing. Like that's just generalizing, just like you can say that about anybody for any reason. But it's like, you know, trans people who don't agree with this stuff, you won't even hear from them because all they want to do is kind of live their life.
Yeah.
They don't want to like bother anybody or invade like women's spaces and make them feel uncomfortable. They just kind of want to live their life. And so it's very much like two different categories, like ones who are reasonable, you can have a conversation with, and then the other ones who, you know, talk at you and kind of bully you into basically saying you must accept me and, you know, agree that I am a real woman otherwise. And then you'll see like all the hate mostly online because like they're keyboard warriors. Like at the end of the day, that's all they're doing is like sitting on like their phones or their computer and just bullying people, like finding like threads to like comment on or something. Like I don't really understand the mentality, but
oftentimes from anonymous accounts.
Of course. It's like, why don't you show your face? Like, what's your real name? Like, why are you like?
There are also people who they put their face out there and they're very proud of this stance, and it's almost a cult-like mentality that I wonder if they even realize like that they are fully immersed in what I think is actually a cult at this point.
It is a cult. We've said the same thing.
It's completely irrational beliefs, and if you don't agree with it entirely, if you're not in lockstep, then you're out. And they seem to actually think that everyone who's not saying anything or voicing any opinion is on their side by default, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they will shun people if they change their mind. They will alienate people, and they will try to ruin your lives. And you know what other groups do that? Cults.
Exactly. Yeah. And it goes back to what you were saying before about the male lesbian. I mean, if someone says that to you and if you don't believe them, then you're the bigot, you know. it's just the crate, like the mentality is just mental to me, how someone can just say, you know, but they're a biological man and they can go up to your face and say, I'm a lesbian, and if you don't believe me, I'm going to abuse you all day. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know? But people are scared of being called bigots. They're scared of being called transphobic or misogynistic or racist or whatever. And these people will throw around those terms with no reason behind it. And it's like the boy who cried wolf. Then if you actually hear about something happening that is hateful, it's really hard to take it seriously because you've heard this word screamed at people for no reason so many times. So it's not good for anybody.
No, certainly isn't.
No, for sure.
I just want to put this comment up from April. She's in the chat.
Hey, April. I was just telling you guys how we were roommates when we were. Were we in Texas? Yeah, that one was in Texas.
Was that the one where you were with her, Riley Gaines, and I don't know who else was there? Or was that Nashville?
I think it was a press conference that was actually about USA powerlifting when we first met.
Okay.
Yeah. And she took me out to barbecue. I'm a vegan, by the way, but I still had a really nice time. But I love April.
We forgive you. We are not. Hopefully you still like us by the end of the show.
Yeah, I'm not one of those vegans. It just works for me. It actually makes me sad. Like, vegans get a bad rep, and I'm like,
there's two categories of vegans.
I've only met a few conservative vegans, and we're just like sitting in the corner, like, oh, don't tell anybody. But
no, it definitely works for some, and then it doesn't for others. I mean, as long as you're healthy and like you feel good, then power to you.
But I grew up hunting, so like
it's kind of a
I've been around that my whole life, so for me it works for me, and it's not going to work for everybody. But there wasn't a lot of options at the barbecue restaurant for me, though.
Barbecue fries.
What were the options you had for the barbecue being?
I don't even remember. This was a while ago.
Well, they do call it cauliflower wings and stuff now. So
that's not I don't like when they call foods that are not what they're calling them. Like calling cauliflower wings, they're not wings. It's just cauliflower.
It's true.
Don't tell me that a black bean burger is a hamburger. It's not. It's fine. I don't want the hamburger. I'm fine with the beans, but don't try to convince me otherwise.
True.
It's true. They don't taste the same. I've had vegan burgers and stuff, which are fine, but they're definitely not the same.
My younger brother was a vegan for a bit, and it was when I was back in the UK, and he tried to convert me to being a vegan. He was, I can remember having a hangover once, and he made me a bacon sandwich, but it was with vegan bacon, which obviously isn't bacon.
Nope.
It just wasn't the same at all, and I had to go.
It made you feel worse.
Yeah, it did. I had to go to the shop and buy some real bacon and cook it.
That's probably, if you're really trying to convince somebody to eat plant-based, that's probably the worst way to do it, is try to give them like a knockoff bacon.
You're like, but it's bacon. I mean, there's nothing that would replace it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But as long as it's good for you, then that's fine, isn't it?
For sure.
Yeah, but I feel like whatever's working for people, let them do their thing. It's kind of annoying when somebody makes fun of me for the way I eat, so I'm not going to do it to anybody else,
True.
No, I mean, it's why does it matter? Well, that's what I always don't get. It's like, well, I don't care what you're eating. Why should you care what I'm eating?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like such a weird thing to even pick on, but then again, it's the same thing with the trans thing. There's always two different kind of groups.
You'll
always have extremists almost,
There are people who you can disagree on something and live your lives and still be friends. And there are people who, if you don't agree on everything, then you're the enemy and you're evil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there definitely are some vegans like that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we've seen loads of clips online, and we've seen some people on X and stuff, These are the extremist versions, of each group. And we always bear in mind that this is a small kind of fraction of each group, if that makes sense. And most people just want to live their lives and just do their own thing, and that's cool. But
Len, I wanted to ask something. The friend that you mentioned in the car, are you still friends?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, that was there were a lot of things that happened. I remember that incident was shocking for her, that I had said that, and then she was upset that I didn't want to go march around and burn down my city during the BLM riots. And I'm like, I work in this city. I'm not going to go destroy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I need to make a living.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, this whole trans movement, not all the trans movement, but like the extremist version, the cult version of this trans movement very much reminds me of all the BLM stuff what came out a few years ago, of all the BLM marches, you know, and all the Palestinian stuff as well, which happened a few months ago with, you know, especially here where people are getting harassed in the streets and the police weren't like doing anything. It very much ties into the same kind of thing for me, where people just jumping on the next
trend almost.
Yeah.
Bandwagon,
Yeah, and I think it all ties in together.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes they don't really know the facts, and like they don't know what's really happening in women's sports. They don't know what's happening with kids and like this whole like idea of children transitioning, and they defend it trying to be nice people and they want to be allies, but they don't know the truth. And it's the same with like the Palestinian protests and BLM and all that. They see something on TikTok, they see something on social media, and they think, wow, I'm an expert now.
I know. They've done like 2 minutes of research.
Yeah.
Okay, like watched like a couple of videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, we've seen so much footage of like these like pro-Palestinian or pro-Hamas basically protests, and like, you know, people interviewing them like on the streets and like asking them like, oh, like you're singing this chant, like do you know what that means? And they're like, you know, it's like this, and like basically they just can't respond. And it's like, well, you should probably understand what you're saying before you say it. And that's with any topic. Like if you're gonna basically participate in like these like very heavy protests, like you should understand what you're kind of supporting. And of course it's great if you're supporting peace, but like what you're saying isn't what you want to be supporting. So
like a chance for actual genocide doesn't really go along with like, a call for peace.
Like from the river to the sea, and it's just like, do you know what that means? Do you know what river, what sea? Like
there's a lot of ignorance, and I think people want to just be in on the latest thing. They think everything is victim and oppressor, and they've decided that one group is one of each, and they must go as hard as possible against the other. And a lot of times they don't know history, they don't know facts, and they take it out on people who have nothing to do with it. Like I remember when I first spoke up, I got more comments saying terrible things about me being Jewish than I did about what I was saying about women's sports.
Yeah.
You're like, what does one have to do with the other?
Yeah,
like,
we've noticed that. I mean, since we posted our show, I don't think there's been a response in terms of comments on our post for like a guest apart from you, because, you know, it's just we checked the post early before we came live, and it was just endless, you know, like an abuse, and I was just like, it's just
really pissed me off. Like, I
wanted crazy.
Wanted to just like call all these people. Like, again, there's just little keyboard warriors, and like, it's also like, why are you like, what? I'm sorry, what did Taylor do that was so wrong? Oh, I'm sorry, she called out that this trans person is actually just a male who competed in a women's sport. Like, I'm sorry, but not every woman wants to go along with that. And we deserve to have our own category. Is that really so controversial?
And and I don't know what comments they left on your guys' post, but it's everywhere, all over my Instagram, all over my Twitter, or X rather. But to me, I'm like, that seems pretty dumb. If you really hate me so much, why boost me up in the algorithm by commenting on my stuff all day? Why don't you just ignore me?
Well,
but it comes from like all different sides. Some of it is about the topic at hand. A lot of times they make up complete and total lies to try to distract people. So they'll just say something bad about me that isn't even true. And then a lot of it is like, well, she's a Jew, she's a genocide supporter and a white supremacist and a Mossad agent and all this and the other thing. And I'm like, do you really think that this is making you look better? The people who pride themselves on being so loving and inclusive and anti-racist. Anytime a minority speaks up, you go full-blown racist on them.
Yeah.
Like I started getting comments, people calling me the K word.
Wow.
And I was like, I've only heard that word even be said out loud a couple times in my life. It's not something that you hear often. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but it's a slur for Jewish people. It's not something you really hear anymore, and it's coming back. And I've seen that in my comments, and I'm like, what the heck is wrong with these people? Do they really believe that they are these kind, righteous people?
They're not.
It's honestly insane.
It's like they're putting a mask on.
Yeah, like the change we've seen in society, you know, with this trans stuff and the rise in anti-Semitism as well. It's kind of gone hand in hand in some ways the last few years, and you know, we've seen a big rise with it on college campuses, of course.
Oh yeah,
which has been really hard to see. And you know,
it made me grateful I didn't go to college.
Yeah, same.
It would not be fun to be on a college campus right now.
Like we watched like a lot of, I don't know if you know who Billboard Chris is.
Oh, I love Billboard Chris. Yeah, I've met him a couple times. He's been out to Timcast for the show, and I've run into him at conferences.
Oh, that's so cool.
His work is amazing.
Yeah, he's really good.
And so we watch a lot of like him and James Klug like going out on the streets and stuff. And like,
you know, James can actually skateboard a little bit.
Oh wow.
Oh really?
Yeah, he dropped in on our mini ramp. It was really impressive. I didn't expect him to just do that out of nowhere.
Hidden talents.
Yeah.
Guys could do like a video who's doing it better.
But yeah, for sure.
But they're a great team, and they go out, and even people oftentimes who go up to argue with them, by the end of the conversation, they realize that they didn't know what they were talking about. And I like how they approach it with compassion, and it's just about spreading the truth, and they don't really engage in people trying to just fight with them.
Mm-hmm.
No, sometimes I wonder how they keep like they're cool with some of these people they speak to. It's like, how do you stay so calm? But you know, they focus on children, which I think is also like, it's harder for people to kind of disagree with that. I mean, you'll still get people who do, but like it's harder to argue about not doing that to children, but as adults, like, fine, do what you want to your body. But like when you're talking about kids, people have less of a logical reason other than to say, let them be who they are. And it's like, well, exactly. So don't mutilate them. Like,
let them be who they are. And that doesn't include.
Oh, shit.
She'll come back.
Oh, no.
Oh, she's there.
Oh,
there we go.
Sorry, did I lose you guys for a second?
No.
Are we still good?
Yeah, we're good.
We're good.
Okay. But and with Chris like keeping his cool, he's literally been assaulted before.
Yeah,
it's on video.
Of him on the bus.
Yeah, and I think there must be more than one, because I definitely saw one where he was like in a park and somebody like came after him and smacked him.
Yeah, and there's been another one where like somebody took his like phone and tried to smash it on the ground. Like, I mean, but honestly, all of that, even though it's so bad, it only keeps proving the point.
Yeah.
So, like how unstable these people are, mentally ill, like you can't reason or have a conversation with them because they just go like mental.
Well, that's why the thing, because it is a cult, like we've talked about tonight. You know, when you're in a cult and you're in that kind of mindset, you know, they don't have any reason or facts to back anything up. So the only thing they can do is get angry or hurl abuse at someone. And it's just so common with every single kind of cult you can imagine. It's the same stuff. So it's not a surprise that these people behave like that. We've actually got Chris on the show next Tuesday. He's going to come on. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be a good show.
Yeah.
We're really looking forward to that.
Yeah. I mean, how have things changed for you? Because obviously, when you first came out and you know spoke up about this a couple of years ago, have you got more confidence, I guess, as time has went on to kind of use your voice to speak up about this?
So in the beginning, I was. Excuse my language, but I was scared shitless when I was like getting these interviews.
Okay, you're allowed to swear here.
Okay, good. But like, when I made this post, I did not expect it to be this viral thing, to be news headlines. I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to piss off some people in the Midwest skate community, and I'm going to feel better for telling the truth. And maybe Red Bull will see it, and that'll be that. and then I'll move on with my life. And I'm probably not going to skate any more Red Bull circuits because it's not worth my time to go be made a mockery of. But when I realized what was happening, like I checked my phone and I was thinking, oh, like this isn't stopping. This is getting to like tens of thousands of likes. This is like so many comments. And in the beginning, it was a lot of hate comments because it was people who like already followed me. And by a few hours in, it had been shared a lot and had been shared by the right people. So a lot more people were following me. A lot more people were coming to support me. And I started getting calls from like major media outlets being like, we need to talk to you. Will you please do this interview? We're going to send camera crews to your place. And I had to make the decision, like, am I going to stop here or am I going to take this opportunity and speak about this? And I really didn't want to the first couple days because I was so stressed out that I like couldn't eat and I couldn't sleep. And I got sick. Like I lost my voice. Like I was just a mess. Like I was sleep deprived. I was like shaky. I was just freaked out. Like I couldn't look away from my phone because I didn't know.
It'll probably be a lot to deal with if you're not used to it. So
like I would have like
a normal post going viral. It's like you like speaking about what's happened to you going viral. So it's two different things.
And it wasn't just that. It was like people were harassing my family. People were like trying to figure out where I lived. Like it was scary. And people were harassing like friends who were in photos with me. So I was like, oh no, like this is having consequences, not just for me, but for other people. But I thought like I've been put in this position and I'm going to trust that it is for a reason. And I'm going to keep doing this. And like, you know what the people would want me to do is to shut up and stop. That's what the Red Bull contest organizers will want me to do. That's what the men in these contests would want me to do. And so I'm going to do it anyway. And I don't care what they think about it. And it's not going to be easy, but somebody has to do it. And I don't think anybody else will. So I started doing these interviews and like going back, I watched that first interview I did. And I'm like, oh my God, like who let me go on camera looking like that? Like what
was your first interview?
The first one was Piers Morgan.
Yeah, we saw that one today.
We saw that one. You did look really nervous, but you didn't look bad.
Yeah, you look.
I had not slept. I hadn't eaten. I was scared that I wouldn't be able to talk because like I actually was ill and I was having trouble like even talking clearly. And then there was an audio delay, so I kept interrupting him.
Big delay,
That did hurt you a little bit. I was like, oh no, because I was like, we were really excited that you were on Piers Morgan, and then, but we could tell you were nervous. I was like, oh my God, I would be too though. Like, you're speaking to Piers Morgan first of all. But
and that was at my studio in like Bat Yam, Israel. So they sent a camera crew. There's a language barrier between me and the camera guys. So they're like, they sit me down and all of a sudden they're like, go. So
like, okay.
But I prayed about it. And that's been like a big part of all this is just praying about it and trusting that God has put me here for a reason and that this is his plan. I may not fully understand it, but I have to trust that I will be protected and that this is the right thing to do. But the interviews have gotten easier. Now I go on camera and I can't shut up. But
you're like, guys, look at me.
Yeah.
No,
but it was scary though, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And you made a good point there. I think in life you just kind of have to go with the flow sometimes, and you've fallen into this world. And you obviously didn't mean to fall into this world, but now you're here, and of course you're doing great stuff. And we talked briefly about this backstage, but since you've come out and talked about this, in some cases people get cancelled or they lose their jobs. But what's happened to you is that you've actually gone from strength to strength, and now you've actually landed yourself a new job with Timcast, I think it is. Is that right?
Yeah. So that was kind of crazy how that all happened. I had connected with, trying to think how it first started. So Christina Buttons, she's a journalist. She had posted about what had happened, and she is, I'm not sure if they're boyfriend and girlfriend still or if they're married now, but she is with Colin Wright, and he's a doctor who talks about like sex and biology and how crazy all this gender ideology stuff is. And like he'd shared it on Twitter, and I didn't even have Twitter at this point. So I'm getting this stuff sent to me from like skaters back home. This is how I'm keeping up with it. But one of my friends from Kalamazoo, who I'd skated with for years, sends me a screenshot and is like, oh my God, like Tim Pool said this. And it's a tweet of Tim sharing Colin Wright's post and saying, Timcast will gladly reimburse Taylor the prize money that she wasn't paid for being bumped out of first place. And I'm thinking, is this guy for real? Like, I didn't even know who Tim was. And like the first,
like, sure,
that's embarrassing to say now, but I didn't know what Timcast was. And now I'm like, I don't know how I didn't know what that was, because he's a skateboarder who has an independent media company. And at that point I was watching a lot of like Daily Wire and PragerU, but I wasn't familiar with Tim somehow. And it was like the middle of the night, and because I was in Israel and the time difference is like, it's like 7 or 8 hours later. So his show's live and they do the show at 8 p.m. So it's like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 in the morning or something. But another friend from back home sends me the show, and they're talking about me. And they're like, for the first time, somebody was actually explaining the story exactly accurate. And it was because he skated and he's been to skate contests and he knows how they're run. So I was like, wow, like this guy actually gets what happened. And like a ton of people are watching this, and he's like trying to get in contact with me. So I ended up talking to him on the phone, and he invited me out as a guest. He wanted me to come like as soon as I could, but I had a few more weeks to spend out in Israel. And I, not gonna lie, I was scared to go back to America. Like, in my head, I thought I was gonna like get off the plane and there'd be people with like torches and pitchforks because of all the stuff online.
You do always imagine the worst.
It wasn't like that at all. Like all the people who I saw who I knew were like, whoa, like you did really good on that show. Like that was awesome. I'm glad you spoke up. I'm proud of you. But I thought people were going to be like chasing me down the street. But I came back and I did a couple other stops, filmed some other stuff, and finally went out to the Cast Castle. And I was just there for a couple days as a guest, and then it got extended to a week. And by the end of the week, he asked if I wanted to stay and work there. And I was like, actually, that sounds pretty good compared to going back to Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is a college town with 3 colleges. So I went home, visited my family, packed up all my stuff, and I moved here, and I've been here since.
Wow.
Brilliant. Well, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, on one of the podcasts we saw, but it's an older one, you were thinking about like moving to Israel. I think to be with your boyfriend. I don't know.
So that boyfriend, we're not together anymore. And he's great, but we were at different points in our life. And he was actually a few years younger than me. And I just knew, like, I'm 28 now. Like, I'm ready to like have kids. I'm ready to get married. And he's amazing, but we weren't at the same places in life. So I ended up ending that relationship, but it didn't end on a bad note or anything. And I'm glad that we like were able to stay friends, and it didn't get to a point that we like hated each other or anything. This is getting really personal, guys. But
I was just curious if you still plan to move there, but I mean,
no, but I really wanted to move there because, well, before I came out here, I got the job with Timcast. I was like trying to get into a Masa Israel program where I was going to do like farming in the desert on a terrible stipend and like have days off to go skateboard. And to me, that sounded great at the time. And I think it still would be cool to go learn how to do that. But I also like for a while had a lot of guilt about like never joining the army there, because I didn't really know about the Lone Soldier program until I was a little bit too old to get into it. So I had like tried to contact them about that, and they were like, the best thing you can do is just have babies. And I was like, man, I know I'm old, but I'm an athlete, and like, I don't know. I just feel like there's not a lot of Jews in the world, and it would be cool to go do that. And I feel like they need to have a self-defense system, and it would be an honor to be a part of that. But it wasn't really working out with all the things that were unfolding in my life, and I realized I really need to be here and speak on this stuff with women's sports, and that's kind of the position that I've been put in. And I felt like that was the direction I was getting pulled. So I actually had like a bunch of my immigration paperwork like filled out already, and I decided put that on hold. I'm going to stick to what I'm doing here. And I ended up meeting my now fiance here, and we now like have a place, and we're pretty settled into our jobs here. So I think I'm probably going to stay here, but I definitely want to go back and visit there. Like, I just love it there. There's also really good skate parks there.
No, and I mean, things always happen for a reason.
Yeah.
So you can like, and also just timing is everything. Like, so we've had a lot of that in our lives, and you can always kind of see things like you don't know why it's going on, or like you said, you don't know if this was like going to be like the path you should take, but things do kind of work out on their own. And
but actually, like last October, my grandma called me and she was like, I just want to tell you, I'm so glad that you're in America right now. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like that would have been really scary to be there. And I know people who were there when that was happening. And I don't know anybody who was killed, but I know some people who had friends who were, and it's terrifying.
Horrific.
But
it was horrific. It really was.
Yeah, and
that is really scary, and you know.
And I think like all the people who say just the most ignorant stuff online, they have no idea what it's really like there. And it sucks to see, but you know, people are gonna do stupid stuff on the internet and think that they're righteous for it, and that's not really in my control, but I'm gonna keep telling the truth, and I hope more people do that too. But it's kind of scary. Like, I think there are more people who hate Jews in the world than there are Jews sometimes. And
that
doesn't.
Well, it's like the minority like screams the loudest as well. So it might feel
that's true.
Way, but hopefully that's not the case, because I do think like when people call like the genocide of all Jews, like it's honestly, it's really disgusting. Like, I don't know how else to say it.
It really annoys me when like I see it, because we see it a lot. We see it a lot on X. We see it a lot on, because we look at a lot of like YouTube stuff, and you know, we see a lot of you know, clips and things like this where it's just promoting this clear, you know, just hatred towards Jewish people, and you know, and it's just openly allowed to be said in like a lot
they think it's justified, and it's really baffling to me too that all these people don't realize that, like, I think something like 20% of the population in Israel is Arabs and Muslims. I lived in Bat Yam where like a bunch of my neighbors were Arab. Like some of the best restaurants were the Arab restaurants, and I would like make sure I knew what they were, so that way if I wanted to go out on Saturday, I could have a restaurant to go to that wasn't closed.
Yeah, we saw. I'm not sure if you saw this interview on Piers Morgan, but it was of this father who, his daughter was one of the hostages, and
it made me cry,
and
it really did.
And he was describing what it's actually like in Israel, how, you know, basically you've got the Arab people there as well, like working, and then all the signs are in like Hebrew, English and
Arabic.
Yeah, so it is like a multicultural society where everyone's kind of together.
Absolutely, like all the street signs and everything, they're in Hebrew, Arabic, and I don't think all of them were always in English, but a lot of them were. And there are Muslims, there are Arabs, there are Jews, there are Christians, there are people from countries all over the world. One of the things I really loved about it is like, you go out and you're just chatting with people, you will meet people from all different countries. You'll hear multiple different languages being spoken in one day. And like, I mean, America is somewhat diverse, but this was different. Like,
Yeah.
And you would see women in hijabs walking down the same sidewalk as women who are like dressed in, like modest Jewish wear. I don't know the correct term.
Yeah.
But or men in like very clearly dressed who are religious Jews. And like you'll see people praying in the same areas of different religions. And the way that it's portrayed is not correct at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. They go and follow like one certain narrative in like mainstream media. But then you hear people talk who, either have been to Israel or who live there. And you're like, you guys don't know anything. Like they don't portray anything accurately, which is really sad. And I mean, I don't understand why anybody would want to say that about anybody. Like to just erase like a whole population, or how like Jewish people, like even in Canada, like are getting hate for something that they have no control over.
Yeah, like they'll claim it's just the Israelis or just the Zionists, but then they say horrible things to like Jewish college students in America and Canada, just like going to class.
Mm-hmm.
Like the worst, to, like run away from it or like lock themselves in like bathrooms because they're getting attacked or harassed. And it's like, do you guys not understand like how terrible that is for anybody to experience? And then, that's where we kind of said like people don't really know what they're talking about. They're just kind of jumping on a bandwagon and they don't even realize like what they're saying and the consequences that would come with that.
Mm-hmm.
And
speaking of
like ignorance, but it's not bliss.
People who don't know what they're talking about, the most ridiculous of the groups is the Queers for Palestine.
Yes.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes, of course.
We've called that out several times. Like they don't get it, do they?
Crazy.
They don't get it.
They would not be accepted. And I think there was even like a video, I don't know if it was like a real one or not, but I think like somebody in the Hamas group or something was basically like, we don't want you guys. Like, we don't want you guys like supporting us and stuff.
There was a news story. I think it was while I was there. It was like my second trip there. There's this news story that came out that there was a guy, I think he was living in Israel, Palestinian living in Israel because he's gay. Like he's living there like under asylum. And he was kidnapped and brought to the West Bank and had his head chopped off.
Wow.
Literally. And this, I think they like filmed it on social media and live streamed it. And I'm like, if you want to go see for yourself, because you're so supportive, go check it out. But don't come running and crying to the gay bars in Tel Aviv when you realize that you're not welcome there. Like you're not any more welcome there than Jews are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how this whole thing even started, this Queers for Palestine movement.
Yeah.
It sounds like it sounds like a satire.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like a joke.
It is. Well, because it is one, but for me, it's probably TikTok. Like it's so toxic on, I don't know if you're on TikTok, but like
I am not. I have not downloaded TikTok. I don't think I will.
Like it's full of like misinformation and like it's very one-sided. It's like very woke. Like we had it for like just a business page because people are like, your videos will do like really well, blah blah blah. We're like, okay, fine. So I would post and ghost. So I'd post something and then just get off the app because I don't really like it in the way it's designed, but maybe I'm just too old. I don't know. But
well, it is a Chinese communist app, and I think that there maybe I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat, but I don't think it's that crazy. I think that this stuff is meant to dumb down Americans, and
it is.
We've talked about this to death.
I feel like we could talk to you about this stuff for hours.
Absolutely.
Well, like even like the sports stuff and just like the ridiculousness of getting people to go along with this lie that men can be women and they should be able to compete with women in sports or even like box women in like combat sports. To me, it feels like a push to be like, how much can we shove down their throats and get away with, and how much will they take? And they're not going to stand up. They won't speak up to us. They're scared. They don't realize they have rights. So it'll make it a lot easier to take their rights away. But we do have rights, and free speech is one of our rights. And people think that we don't have that anymore.
I know. And
at least they act like
everybody is
it.
laughing at us, like all the West, because this is even happening in like Australia and stuff. We had the Women's Rights Network Australia on the show a few weeks ago, and like talking about their like situation and what's going on, and like it's happening there too. And it is like almost like just one big joke, and like to see how far can this, like, can we take it? But we do think it's like several avenues in on this.
It feels like to me we're in some sort of a war which we can't see, with Russia and China especially. And what they've kind of done is they've thought, right, we're not going to be able to fight America with guns because we get absolutely annihilated. So what we'll do is we'll destroy them from the inside out by infecting their society with this Marxist kind of viewpoint. And, you know, they've used it with apps like TikTok, you know, and, you know, it's, you know, it's like a social contagion, this always woke kind of conversation with gender, with, you know, we're seeing it with DEI now, how that's kind of taken over. And it's just an absolute mess.
Yeah.
An absolute mess at the minute.
And it's got like mainstream, you've got the medical industry in on it, you've got schools, the government, like it's all these different avenues now pushing it, especially targeting children. And I mean, at some of these like TRAs, like trans right activist protests, you'll actually hear some that chant like, "We're coming after your children." And it's like they're literally telling you what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and I've been saying this the whole time, like, what happened to me in skateboarding, it's a lot bigger than skateboarding. This is like sports and women's spaces as a whole, but this entire category of stuff happening is a symptom of a far larger, darker, more sinister issue. And it's that like people are being brainwashed, and the most important issue is kids are being attacked. Like kids are being given drugs that are irreversible. Kids are being given surgeries. A lot of these kids are like going to be patients and victims for life. And they're going to be totally lost and not know how to get themselves together after they get through this. And I'm really grateful for all the detransitioners who are speaking up, because like they get hit even worse with the abuse and the harassment. Because they don't want, like, the trans rights activists, that's like the last thing they want is for people to hear stories like that.
Because they broke out of the cult.
You see?
I think we're going to hear a lot more stories like that in the future.
Yeah, did you see the New York Times article what came out a couple of days ago? They did a whole big piece on it about the transitioners. And for the New York Times to kind of say that, which is a very left-wing kind of paper,
it's
a massive thing to me, how they've even kind of switch sides a little bit, and they're trying to highlight how damaging this movement is. So I think with things like that, it does show that the tide is changing a little bit.
Totally. And I really believe that we are going to reach a point. I think we already started to a little bit, but even more so in the near future, we're going to reach a point where a lot of the people who are advocating for this stuff are going to switch and pretend like they never supported it. Because it's going to be an embarrassing and shameful thing to have to go back and like look at things that they were saying before and realize that they sound like predators. They sound like child abusers. And it's not like, you know, there's new information that makes them sound like that. They sounded like this the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, these are people who want like drag queens dancing for kids. They want porn in schools. They want to just mentally mess up children and confuse them into thinking that it's even possible for them to change their sex or that something might be wrong with them. And that's some of like the darkest, most evil stuff you can do to somebody.
Telling them they were born wrong.
I mean, it's the most manipulative thing you can say at the end of the day, that, you know, that you were born wrong, and or if like you believe in God, that God made you wrong. And things like this, and it's so damaging to a kid. I mean, can you imagine being a kid and your parents saying that to you, that you were born wrong?
I can't imagine it, because when I was a kid, like every single one of us, like especially girls, we felt uncomfortable in our bodies going into puberty, and that was a normal thing. And if I expressed that to my older sister or to my dad, I was told that's normal. I wasn't told maybe something's wrong with you. Like that wasn't even something you would consider saying to a child. And this wasn't that long ago. I'm not that old. But
so, like,
now,
you're going through puberty, just deal with it. Like, everybody's done it. Everybody's gone through it. You know, you're not going to go through it exact same time as your friends, but you'll get through it and eventually it'll be better. And like, that's it.
And perhaps there are people who actually do experience like this gender dysphoria where they feel uncomfortable in their bodies. But I am personally of the opinion, and this may offend some people, and I'm not saying adults shouldn't be able to make a decision if they really want to. Kids, this should be off the table entirely. But I'm personally of the opinion that getting surgeries, taking drugs is not going to solve an issue that is a mental issue.
Completely agree.
100%.
Now, if you're an adult and you want to do that, that is your right to do that. But kids should not be given this stuff at all. But I do wonder why it's not treated more like other like body dysmorphias, like eating disorders.
Yeah.
Well, it is a mental health thing. I mean, we've talked about this to death on this show loads of times that, you know, why are they trying to fix what's on the outside when it's clearly a mental health issue? You know, it doesn't make any sense.
Like you wouldn't tell someone. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was gonna say, unless you want them tied to the medical industry for the rest of their lives, which, like, that's why they're using kids like cash cows. And
it's making them a hell of a lot of money.
It is. And they don't even really disclose like what a day in the life will be for you if you do get these surgeries done, which it's basically hell. Like, we had a doctor on the other day who's like a whistleblower for Texas Children's, which is like the largest hospital in the world. And he even said, like, you know, even just to use the washroom, like just to go pee, it's something that anybody who's had like this surgery, like bottom surgery, will be dreading every single time. It's like the worst nightmare because there's so many complications and infections that go on that they don't talk about that though. They just talk about how amazing you'll feel after you've had surgery. But in reality, it's like a living nightmare every single day. And
there's a lot of people who regret it and are actually brave enough to speak up about it, despite that being really personal stuff to have to share and getting all the backlash for it from the people who don't want anyone to know that there are bad consequences. But like a lot of times these surgeries have to be redone to be like corrected. And there are all sorts of complications. There are people who then decide that they actually don't want to identify as trans and they can't completely backtrack now. And you can't go back to point zero. Like these are permanent consequences. So like even adults go through that where they transition as adults and then want to detransition. So to say that a kid should be able to make that decision is insane.
Yeah, like, and I mean, like, I think they should have, like, if you even want to start puberty blockers, even as or I guess you wouldn't start that, you start like hormones as an adult. But before that, you should have like a minimum of like a year's worth of therapy, like consistent therapy, not like 1 or 2 sessions.
That's what it used to be. I mean, my mum used to work in the mental health industry when she was younger, and she was telling me that she used to deal with transsexuals, they used to call them. She was saying to me that, you know, when she was working in the industry, that you'd have to go through 2 to 3 years of therapy first before you'd even consider doing this kind of surgery. So the fact that they've abandoned, you know, safeguarding people in regards to making sure that you're mentally in that space to, you know, make massive changes to your body, which you can't change. But these days, it's literally just, you know, if your child shows any sign that they might be a girl when they're actually a boy, if, you know, if they're a boy and they're like, you know, to put a dress on, you know, their parents will just wheel them down to the gender clinic and put them in this program. And it's just, I mean, for a parent to do that, to me, just doesn't make any sense at all.
I know.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And I think that some people may actually have good intentions and they are in a very vulnerable position that they're being manipulated by people they trust in like the medical field, because they will tell them that if you don't do this, your kid is gonna kill themselves.
Yeah.
I know.
Like,
It's like the worst thing you could say.
Yeah, if you're a parent and you don't know any better and you're not doing a lot of research on this, that's probably scary to hear. But at this point, there's so much information out there. There's so many whistleblowers that, like, I can't fully, take the blame away from parents doing this. And then there's the whole group of like what is it, Munchausen by proxy parents who like want to have a special kid who has a problem so they can feel. Yeah. And you see that with like parents parading their little ones on social media and like transitioning them. And that feels like it's the parent who has the problem and the kid who is the victim of it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's child abuse. I mean, I just think full stop, like, I don't like it. It's almost controversial to say like 25, but your brain is still developing until you're 25 years old.
I would say
so.
Like a good one.
I think
I'd say it's a good age to do
it. It's sensible.
I think it's sensible.
And like, it's just so sad, like to say that to children and to put them through that. And most of these children who do feel that way have suffered from some kind of abuse as children. So it could be like physical abuse, sexual abuse. And those are also reasons that could be contributing to why they don't want to like associate themselves with being a girl or being a boy. Is like some feel like if I wasn't a girl or if I wasn't a boy, I wouldn't have those things happen to me anymore. And other reasons are like they're autistic. And
that too,
And so you're like this whole gender dysphoria, if they actually went through puberty, most of them actually grow out of it. But it's when you're stopping it that, they're not only going to stop puberty, but they're going to have like improper like bone development, brain development. So they're going to have lower IQ. So literally dumbing them down, sterilizing them so they cannot have the choice as adults. If they want to have children, they won't even get that choice. Like there's so many consequences. And it's like in that list, do you really think a child is equipped to make that decision? Like the fact that we're even having this debate in society, it's like, well, then why don't you give them a pack of cigarettes and see how they do? Or let them drink alcohol, let them go join the army. They're 10, can't they go shoot guns in war? Or
you can't get a tattoo, but you can have an irreversible surgery. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, why not? Like in this crazy society.
And I think we've even gotten to a point where it's not just kids who have like faced abuse. Like this is being pushed in public schools.
Oh yeah, it's disturbing.
Like this is stuff a lot of parents, when I was in school, and a lot of parents when they were in school age, this stuff wasn't being taught in schools. So they may not even be realizing how much things have really changed. And when their kid comes home and starts talking about this, it might not be the first thing that comes to mind is, well, you guys doing worksheets about the genderbread man today? Because that never happened when we were in school.
Genderbread man, I love it.
You've seen that, right? I'm referencing an actual worksheet that was posted.
Oh
I think like Lids of TikTok posted this. But like kids are being taught absolutely ridiculous stuff and explicit stuff that most of it's just inaccurate lies and some of it's just inappropriate for children.
Yeah.
So when you're telling that to a child, you're going to confuse them.
Oh yeah.
Like this is not stuff that's appropriate to talk to kids about, and it shouldn't be happening at schools. They should be focusing on like the regular school subjects.
Yeah.
And maybe if they like spent more time teaching, the Constitution than about gender identity, then kids would have their stuff together and not be scared to talk about this.
Yeah, and it's a slippery slope as well, because this gender conversation is just stage one for me. I saw Joe Rogan's show the other day, and I posted a clip actually today, and he was talking about how there's more and more talk that they're changing the word paedophile now to minor attracted person, which is being phased into schools now as well. And there's been teachers who have tried to promote this in the past at universities as well. So you can kind of see where this slippery slope will end. Where
normalizing pedophilia.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to call them MAPS or minor attracted person. I'm going to call them a pedo or a pervert. And these people don't deserve like any kindness.
Like no, I don't really have a lot of sympathy for the most evil thing a person can do.
Oh no.
I'm like, literally, where's the death penalty when you need it? Because like I have no sympathy for these people. Like if you're willing to do that to a child, like there's just something wrong with you that you can't fix.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
But it's just crazy how it's been normalized.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we saw. I'm not sure if you saw the movie yet, but we watched The War on Children, which came out a couple of days ago. Big movie. What I think it was Robbie and Landon Starbuck who made it.
Yes, I haven't watched it yet, but I actually I heard about that while it was in production, actually. But I'll have to check it out. Do you have to be subscribed to Robbie's page to watch it, or is it up on Twitter?
Pay for it.
You have to pay for it. I think it was about.
It's probably worth the subscription for the watch, though.
Yeah. We watched it a couple of days ago. We did a review last night on our channel.
Okay, cool. I'll check out that too.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and you know, that highlights the history of the education system and this push to sexualize kids, and there's very interesting connections between Hugh Hefner and this movement, which you would probably find interesting when you watch the movie. Yeah,
there's a there's a lot of like really interesting ties between, like we've said, between like mainstream and schools and governments and the medical industry. And of course the video or the documentary highlights in America, but you do see it in Canada, in the UK, in Australia, and like you can like really kind of see where like all these connections are and just how sinister it is, really.
Yeah.
And, like it is pretty mental, but it is worth a watch for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad that like these types of films are coming out. Like when Matt Walsh put out What Is a Woman, it was huge, and there were so many people who didn't believe this was happening and hadn't really paid attention or seen it. And honestly, if this had never happened to me in sports, I probably wouldn't have been paying as much close attention and realized how dark and deep this rabbit hole really goes. So I'm grateful this happened, because now I'm like, I'm going to get married. I'm going to have kids. I'm going to homeschool them. I'm not going to send them to public school. I'm going to like pay attention to exactly what these politicians are saying. And I am going to pay attention to the news when these news articles come out about what's happening in sports and about girls in bathrooms at schools, and like, how are we going to repair this with how far down we've gone? But a lot of people, if it hasn't impacted them, they don't really pay attention. They just go on with their lives, which I understand. Like, I didn't know all this stuff was happening until it happened to me. I mean, I paid attention to an extent. I've like been watching Ben Shapiro for a really long time, but like I wouldn't have known about this film.
Yeah. No, it's true. Like, I mean, I sometimes like share some stuff with like my friends, and I'm like, you need to watch this, or like, you need to look at this. And then like, I'll have some friends who are like, oh no, I haven't really been watching your show lately. I'm so sorry. I'm like, well, it's okay. I'm like, I'm not famous, but this one you should really watch, because this one, like, there's a lot of information you should really be aware of. And like, or they're like, oh, I kind of heard something about this and that. And I'm like, you need to start paying more attention.
Yeah, like people need to know this stuff sooner than later, because the further we go, the harder it is to come back to just normalcy.
Yeah, and I think as like we get older, like we also realize like how important it is to understand politics. Like I think for some people, maybe not for everybody, but like politics was a bit boring for me in high school. I was kind of like, oh, learning about politics. I was like always into music and like and stuff like that. So I just never really focused enough. But now as I'm older, like I'm 32 now, I'm like, it's really important to understand like politics and who you're voting for and why you're voting for them and stuff. So it's like you really do need to start paying attention, because that affects what goes on in your country big time. And I mean, look at who we have as leader in Canada.
Yeah, we've got a man who puts tampons in male bathrooms here. You know, that's...
And then you've got Biden, who doesn't even remember when he was VP. So
Yeah.
that like it's really sad, like watching him just deteriorate.
Yeah, and I've heard people say like, "Well, I still support Biden," and I'm like, "How? Like, are the Dems really going to run him again? That seems like the worst move they could
It's
make."
impossible.
It's like elder abuse now.
I think at this point
Yeah.
it's abuse. So, it really is, because everyone can see that, he's just not right. He can't, he's clearly got some sort of, I mean, it's speculation, but he's definitely got dementia to me. It looks like
That's what it seems like. And
signs.
he's just rambling on in speeches, like not even knowing what he's talking about. He doesn't know where to walk or go. Yeah. And it feels like they're just using him as a puppet. And I know there's a lot of other people behind the scenes who are like the puppet masters here, but it does feel abusive and weird. It's like, this guy needs some help.
Mm-hmm.
He should not be on TV talking about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First it was funny, and now it's just like sad. It's like, come on, like get this old man home. Like, I'm sure he just wants to go into like his PJs and like rest, because
he just needs like some pudding and a recliner.
I know. He's like, I like ice cream, don't I? What kind of ice cream do I like? It's like, my God.
That thing what Trump put out a few weeks ago about Biden and the retirement home. Did you see that clip?
Oh, I don't know. What was it?
We'll dig it up and find it. But he basically, well, like, we don't have Truth Social, but he posted it on there, and somebody like posted it on X, and it was like it was like a whole video made of like the White House being like a retirement home.
Yeah.
But it was really funny the way it was done. What did they call it?
Was it Biden for Resident?
It was like something like that.
I've seen some of those T-shirts.
Yeah.
Oh, there's T-shirts. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, but no, it was great.
Yeah.
And what's like your thoughts on the election for America? What's your thoughts on who's gonna win? I guess
I haven't talked about this a lot. I hope that Trump wins. Mm-hmm. But I'd be happy if a conservative wins, but it sounds like most of them are dropping out already. And I think that Trump is the best pick for.
Oh, you don't have to be shy about it.
No, don't have to say it. We've said it before as well. I mean,
he's brilliant.
The way we see it, I think Trump, the way things are in like America from what we see, I think that's what America needs right now. I think America needs to be put first for Americans at the minute. Mm-hmm. And I think he just needs someone strong to put their foot down on certain things and take control. And I think Trump's the guy to kind of take control, take America by the reins again, and just make the people put Americans first effectively, which is what hasn't happened in America for.
Yeah, and he's not scared of hurting anybody's feelings. He's going to tell it how it is. And I have gained even more respect for him after going through what I went through, because what I went through with like the harassment online and people trying to spread lies about me and smear campaigns, it is such a small scale compared to what they do to him. Like, he gets it the worst out of anyone, I think, in the whole world. 100%. And he's just like, I don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me. Yeah. And I'm not going to lie. I want him to win because I think that it will piss off the left the most, and their heads will explode.
The meltdown will be brilliant. The
meltdown will be brilliant. Yeah. You worded that perfectly.
Like popcorn or something.
Yeah.
Did you see his statement? We did post it. I don't know if you saw it, but his statement about all this, like trans and like kids, it was, gender ideology and all this stuff. He flat out said he's going to ban it all from first day in office.
Yeah, I've seen like different speeches where he's talked about it, and he's talked about what's happening in women's sports, and he's been very supportive of fairness in women's sports, which is great. Like, actually, at an event, I was at CPAC in Dallas a couple years ago, and I spoke on a panel with Riley, and he pulled her right up on the stage. I got to meet him, actually.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was intimidating. He's like way taller than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, I think he's like 6'4" before Trump, I think.
Yeah, he's a big guy, but I got to talk to him for a few minutes, and I told him like, this is a common thing that's happened in skateboarding, and we need a leader who isn't afraid to tell the truth about it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. What did he say?
He was really nice. He like shook my hand and took a photo with me, and
that's so cool.
I don't even remember it. It went really fast because like the whole time I was like, whoa, this is really happening. I was kind of starstruck, to be honest. I mean, I've seen him on TV. I've seen him do all these speeches. So to be in front of him, I was like, don't say anything stupid in my head.
No, we got it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he, he seems like a character to me. And like you were saying before, the amount of abuse he gets, and even before he was the president, in like 2015, 2014, when he was deciding to run, the media were trying to cancel him even before he was the president. And it's been nearly 10 years of this now for him, and he just doesn't care. He just gets on with it, and it's just, he just goes from strength to strength. So you do have to admire that, and I think that's why I think the American people need him. Yeah, because he is a strong man. You might not agree with everything he says. I mean, there's nobody who's perfect in this world, but I think for what America needs right now, I think he's the perfect guy for the job.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who have like the Trump derangement syndrome, a lot of them are realizing that, oh, like one thing I heard was a total lie, and he didn't really say that. He didn't really do what they told me he did. And then they start realizing like how much of this other mainstream media is a lie. And I would like to see more young people, especially because, young people, I like to say this like I'm like an old geezer, like, oh, the young people. But like, I just see a lot of people who are younger and don't really know, and they just see a headline and decide that's the truth. Yeah, I think if they would actually listen to what he's saying, they would realize that he's very reasonable and also very likable and very funny, and is somebody who can make politics a little more interesting for someone who might not be interested in it.
Yeah, like his rallies are like WWE.
Yeah, I mean,
like
it's like a stand-up comedy bit. Like he just goes off the cuff. I think a lot of times he's not even reading a speech, and he just says what's on his mind, and a lot of times he makes it very funny and easy to watch.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, we've often said this is one of the greatest stand-ups of all time.
He
really is.
He is. He's
a great public speaker.
Yeah,
he is, and I think maybe that comes because he's like a businessman. He wasn't always a politician, so it kind of brings like that different aspect to it. But he is just very like likable the more you listen to him, and he is very entertaining. Like he does make politics interesting. And his rallies are like WWE, like they get so excited and passionate, and like they're just like cheering, and like that one event where like this one guy got booed off like from the rally, and like it was just so funny. Like it's just entertaining, but it does like make you pay attention. I'm just like, I hope more young Americans are paying attention, because
I honestly think I honestly think a lot more are, but they're obviously too scared to speak up because of that Trump derangement syndrome you've mentioned. There's this stigma around even saying Trump's name at times, and like you're going to be called like names, and it's just. But when you actually think about it, he's so far ahead in terms of popularity compared to the rest of the people. So surely there shouldn't be anything wrong with supporting him, if that makes sense.
And I in terms of like Republican candidates, I think that the other two who probably had like better shots, they both dropped out already, and that's DeSantis and Vivek. And then for the Dems, I'm like, are they going to run Biden? That seems like a death sentence for this election to them. Like, so I don't know. Well, I don't know if they're going to have somebody else be the primary, but it sounds like they could possibly run Biden, which I don't think he would stand a chance.
I'm not sure. I mean, from what I've seen, this is like rumors, but I saw Megyn Kelly talking about this a few weeks ago. She said that in the next few months, she said between March and May, Joe Biden's going to drop out the race and Michelle Obama is going to be the primary, which I'm not sure.
Only time will tell.
Yeah, but that's what she said. And it would kind of make sense for them to do that, because that would be like the last chance saloon to put Michelle.
Yeah, but also that's kind of like a late start to get in, right?
Yeah. I think she probably assumes that she'll do well just because of who she is. But
yeah,
I don't know. Will that really stick? I don't think so.
It wouldn't. But I can see them doing that because I think
I could see it happening.
I honestly think they're desperate now. So
well, I could definitely see them trying to put somebody else as the primary. That seems like the smarter thing to do. Like even from their standpoint, seems like the smarter thing to do. But man, I guess it'd be good for us if they do run Biden. Like,
it would be great for us because even like because this is another James Klug video, but he's gone on the streets asking like about Biden to people. And, you know, even some who do support Biden are like, I support and I am like a Democrat, but is it right to really have him run again? So even like some and others are like, no, he's fine. But like even some of them are kind of questioning, like, is it right though? Like, is he really like fit to run again?
He could drop at any moment. The way I see it, he could drop dead at any moment. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, that or like his dementia just kind of, you know, takes a turn for the worse.
Yeah,
because we for all we know, we could already be on like the second or third clone. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
He's an alien.
Yeah.
Of some kind. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up to an hour and a half, Tail. I'm not sure how much time you have, but we'll leave.
That went by really fast.
Yeah,
I know it did.
Yeah, I was surprised. I just checked, and I didn't. We don't want to keep you for too long, so we'll leave it there.
Okay.
But before you go, is there anything you want to share? Have you got any like news or events which are coming up, which you'd like to talk about, or anything?
Yeah.
I guess if you are interested in like skateboarding content, we did just recently start a new show out at Timcast. It's on YouTube. It's called Boonies HQ. Okay. And myself and another skateboarder, Richie Jackson, co-host the show together. And we have an awesome filmer, Dennis Williford, Chum Media. And we've had like skateboarding guests and like it's not just skateboarding, but like we're also going to have out like scooter guests and bikes and blades and all that stuff, and just provide like another outlet of media for skate content. So if you're into that, feel free to check that out.
We'll check it out. But what was it called? Sorry,
Boonies HQ.
Boonies HQ. I'll make a little note of it.
And then if you're not into skateboarding content, but you like making fun of woke stuff and current events, there's another show on the Timcast website called Cast Castle, which I'm on sometimes. Actually, it's one my fiance produces and writes. And
cool. Is that how you guys met then?
That is how we met, yeah.
Oh,
but Cast Castle is very silly, and if you need a break from all the absolutely dreadful seriousness of what is going on in the world today, it's a good place to go to laugh about it all.
Brilliant. We'll definitely check that out. We've actually got a little question here, a skateboard-related question from Tommy. So, can you ask Taylor if ACS skateboard trucks still exist? I had ACS 651s on my board, very late 70s, early 80s, with bright green wheels and sealed bearings.
Tommy, are you talking about Ace trucks? I would guess he's talking about Ace trucks. Ace trucks definitely still exist. I have some on my freestyle board, which is actually like somewhere in the corner over there. But they're good. I like Ace. I know a lot of people who like Ace. I'm not sure what ACS is, so I'm assuming he's talking about Ace. And if ACS is something different, then I'm not old enough for it. Which is
I know it's kind of like this goes beyond me, but we'll see if he replies.
Yeah, he might reply in like a few seconds.
In a few seconds,
yeah. But if he doesn't, we'll tell you later the answer, I guess.
Then leave a comment on one of our pages, and we'll find it later.
But yeah, thanks so much, Taylor. It's been a pleasure. It's flown by, you know.
It really has.
Yeah, I didn't think that much time had gone by. Sorry if I've just been rambling.
No, it's okay.
I really like chatting with you guys, and I feel like we are on the same page on a lot of stuff.
Likewise. Well, if you ever want to come back on the show, like open door like policy, if you ever
definitely
have free time, because we know it's it's probably far and few in between, so you've got a couple of shows going on and stuff, but yeah, you're welcome anytime.
I usually do like at least a couple either like podcasts or interviews throughout the week, so I try to like keep doing them when I get asked to, but this one was a lot of fun. Some of them I'm like, is it over yet?
Well, I think it's like we just take more casual approach. Like we don't have
Yeah.
scripts or anything. We just kind of like I think we kind of went all over the place tonight, like topic wise, but in a good way. Like
Yeah.
we just kind of let the conversation flow. And I mean it's relevant stuff. It's just yeah. So I think that does make the time go by. We're like,
It
wow,
does,
I
yeah.
didn't realize it was an hour and a half until you
Same.
said it.
I just look at the corner. I was like, well, bloody hell, it's an hour and a half.
Yeah, which we don't mind. Like,
yeah, but
is what
we
it
just
is.
don't want to take the piss and keep you for longer than you are. Than if you got plans tonight, I'm not sure, but
Oh, he said, "Yep."
oh yeah,
Oh yeah, yep. Ace trucks are good. Actually, that's if I were gonna like recommend like trucks to people, that would be like one of the couple of companies that I would choose as the better ones.
My first ever broken bone, a skateboard. Oh, it was
I think
a typo.
mine might have been too.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, we'll leave it there, Taylor. We'll pop you backstage just for a minute. We'll have a brief chat before you go.
Okay.
But
That's
yeah,
cool.
we'll just do like an outro, then we'll come backstage with you.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much again for having me. This was a lot of fun.
No,
Yeah,
you're
of
welcome.
course.
And like we said, you're welcome back at any point. So hopefully you'll come on the show again.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Sounds good. Okay, thanks.
That was Taylor.
Right.
Great conversation. Flew by.
Absolutely it really did flow by, like, or fly by.
Fly by, flew by, we know. And
Taylor, you're fucking awesome.
Yeah, she's great.
Totally agree.
She's great. And
what a cool chick.
And like she was saying, I think we're on the same wavelength.
I know. Well, that's the thing is like every time she was saying anything, I'm like, yes. I'm like, God, where have you been? Like, where have you been? And why don't you live around here so we can hang out?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, we'll fly down to the Tim Cast at some point, I guess.
Maybe the Tim Castle.
Yeah.
I like that castle. That's funny.
Yeah.
We'll have to check that out. And guys, we will add all those links in the description because I didn't know all this information before. So I'm going to add it and then I'll put it also on X. I'll just add it as a comment because you can't really edit the video. So I will add all those links in the comments for you guys as well. So you can check out and check it out and subscribe as well on YouTube. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that conversation. For everybody watching the replay, you can always leave a comment if you have any questions or anything, or just want to say how amazing Taylor is. That's perfect.
Absolutely. And go support Taylor.
She really does deserve a lot more support than
she does.
hate.
And you know what? I've noticed a difference because obviously we've been having a Taylor binge today. We've watched a few of her shows and we've noticed a big change in terms of her confidence. When you compare the interview she did with Piers Morgan and the interview she's done with us today, it's like it's good to see like how much confidence she's got. Yeah.
Honestly,
it's really good to see.
Still a great interview though, to be honest. And I think if we were being interviewed by Piers Morgan, like we'd be shitting our pants.
I'd be shitting my pants.
Like I really would be. Like I don't think I'd play it as cool as she did. I think I'd be like, oh my God, he's like asking me a question.
Yeah, I mean it would be nerve wracking for sure with Piers. So so credit for Taylor for holding her own with Piers Morgan.
She was very composed and poised, really. So I think she needs to give herself more credit.
For sure. But yeah, we'll leave it there, guys. We're rambling on. So thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you all in the chat and everyone who watches the replay. We love you all and thanks so much for supporting the channel.
For sure.
If you're brand new to our channel and you like the stuff we talk about, subscribe to the channel. Ring the notification bell to tell you when we go live, which is every single night, 8 p.m. Eastern, bringing you a wide range of topics and guests. Like we mentioned before, we do have Billboard Chris coming up on the show next Tuesday. Which we're very much looking forward to speaking to him. And we do have some other ones too, but we're just waiting to get those 100% confirmed. Then we'll tell you about them.
100%.
Yeah.
And make sure you guys do follow us on X. We do post a lot, like I keep saying, but it's true. We do post a lot and we engage a lot with people. So make sure to give us a follow. And if you do want to support the show, you could become a YouTube or Patreon member. You can also donate on buymeacoffee.com. That just goes to supporting the show. Like we said, we go live every day. So it does mean a lot to us. And thank you to our current YouTube and Patreon members for supporting the show. Yeah, I know. I almost knocked over my water. Okay. I was like, whoa, whoops. Anyway, thank you to our current members because your support does mean a lot to us and does go noticed. So thank you. And to everybody in the chat, thank you for being here. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow. Take it
Bye-bye.
easy.